welcome to this week's webinar. I've got the wonderful Laura from Evolve with me, and we are going to be talking about elevating spa rituals and the power of energy, scent, and intention. Laura, thank you for joining us. Before we dive into today's topic, can you tell us a little bit more about your background, please, and why energetic wellness has become such an important part of your skincare and spa philosophy?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me. Really delighted to be here. So my journey into holistic beauty actually started long before I founded Evolve, because I'm actually a trained Reiki master, and I've got a deep understanding of energy medicine, and I've also trained in nutrition and energetic kinesiology. And when I combine that with my background as a cosmetic designer, and I'm the founder of an innovative beauty and wellness brand, I just kept on noticing across all these disciplines that the most transformative experiences weren't just physical. They were working with the nervous system, the emotional state, and also on energetic patterns that people were carrying. And I've just seen again and again, when you work with all of these layers together, energy, physiology, and skin health, you get much deeper results, and the results are more long-lasting.
And it ties closely with what so many spa directors have been telling us. Guests today want more traditional massage and facials. They want the hands-on element. And from your perspective, why is energetic wellness becoming so relevant in spa?
So we're seeing a huge shift in guest expectations. People are more stressed than ever. They're more overstimulated. They're more disconnected from their bodies. They're no longer just looking for a physical treatment. They're looking for nervous system regulation and emotional grounding and a sense of being held as they have a treatment. And when we look globally, luxury spas are now integrating all this energetic wellness. They're integrating breath work and chakra balancing and sound therapy and intention setting and meridian work into their treatments. This isn't fringe anymore. It's becoming a core pillar of modern well-being because it meets the emotional needs that clients are bringing
I'm becoming a massive fan of it. Breath work, sound bathing, all tick a list for me of things we need to be looking into. So before we look at the techniques themselves, could you help us sort of understand the scientific foundation behind this all? What is energetic wellness, and how does modern science interact with it?
So when we talk about energetic wellness, we're describing the subtle non-physical aspects of health that shape how we feel. So our breath, our emotional state, our intention, and the energetic tone that the body holds. And these ideas have been part of systems like Ayurvedic medicine and traditional Chinese medicine for thousands of years. But now we're seeing modern spas re-embracing them in a very practical, grounded way. Across the industry, treatments that weave together breath work, sound, chakra or meridian mapping, and intentional touch are becoming core to the guest experience. And what's changed is that now we understand more about how these approaches work, because we can look at it with a modern neuroscience lens, which shows us that breath, scent and rhythm and emotional presence, they all influence the autonomic nervous system. So a single inhalation of essential oils will go straight into the limbic system, which is the part of the brain that governs emotion and stress. And we also know that slow exhalation and therapeutic touch can help restore vagal tone and shift the body into a calmer and more receptive state. So at Evolve, we think of energetic wellness through three complementary lenses that help therapists work in a structured and credible way. So we layer in energy medicine and ancient wisdom, and these traditions recognize these patterns of flow. So things like chakras and meridians, which we're going to talk a bit more about later. And these reflect emotional and physical balance. And in the treatment room, this translates into intuitive tools. So energy holds, grounding holds, slow rhythmic touch, as well as breath and intention. But we can layer onto this modern science. So with the science of neuroscience, nervous system regulation, and also the olfactory science, we know that this sensory input, especially scent, breath and rhythm, has an immediate impact on stress pathways. So we're going to talk a bit about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic sides of the nervous system. We know it can affect cortisol, heart rate variability, as well as emotional processing. So this is the science that goes behind that sort of felt shift that guests can experience when they have a treatment. And then, as well as that, we know that the emotional state can directly influence your skin as well through psychodermatology. So we know that stress affects the barrier function of the skin and can also impact sensitivity. So when we calm the nervous system, we can also better support skin outcomes. And therapists can see this connection every day in all of their treatments. So energetic wellness is ultimately about activating the body's own healing intelligence. With these principles in place, we can start looking at how we bring these into treatment with clear, teachable touch points. Most guests arrive in a stress state. They're tense, rushed, and overstimulated. In that state, the body isn't repairing, digesting, or processing emotion. And a truly holistic treatment will shift them into a relaxed state where healing can happen. So everything we're going to talk about today, chakras, meridians, and all of the ways we can integrate those, ultimately works because it tells the nervous system you're safe now.
I think we see a bit more of that now. We talk a lot more about things like vagal tone and things like that. People are becoming more aware of the language. This feels like a perfect moment to ask to see your slides.
Yes, so I've made a few slides to help explain how some of this works in practice. So let's start grounding this conversation in something every therapist and spa director already works with every day, whether consciously or not, which is the nervous system. So in spa, we talk a lot about relaxation, and what we're really facilitating is nervous system regulation. So we're helping the body shift from a state of stress and overstimulation into a state where it can truly heal, rest, and reset. So here we've got a picture that shows the two states that the autonomic nervous system can be in. So we've got the sympathetic side, which is on the left-hand side. So this governs alertness and action. So we know of this as the flight or flight response. So when someone's in this sort of system, we see shallow breathing, we see muscle tension, anxiety. It shuts down digestion, it lowers immunity, and impairs skin repair. And this is very useful if you're running away from a saber-toothed tiger when you're a type person. But the truth is, almost every client walks through the treatment door already in this heightened sympathetic state, because that is what modern living is like these days. And so what we're looking for is to try and help people shift into parasympathetic. So this is the body's restorative mode. You can see this on the right-hand side. So this is, we sometimes call this rest and digest, or even breed and feed is another word for it. And this is where the body's in repair mode with restoration. It's where the breathing deepens, the heart rate slows, digestion will return, inflammation will reduce, and the body finally feels safe enough to let go. And a truly transformative treatment is one that helps guide the client from sympathetic into parasympathetic calm. And this is the foundation of emotional release, muscle softening, and skin repair. And this is where the energetics can come in, because rituals which are based on breath, scent, intention, and energy holds are some of the quickest and the most powerful ways we have to support this physiological shift. So everything we explore today ultimately works because it communicates this safety to the nervous system.
And that all ties it all together. So, I mean, I've mentioned the vagus nerve, and we've mentioned it a few times. I'm just thinking, for those who don't work with it directly, could you explain why it's so important in spa treatments?
Yes, so the vagus nerve is an amazing nerve. I actually read a book all about it the other day called The Great Nerve, which was fascinating. It's an extraordinary nerve, and researchers are still investigating how it works. It basically runs from your brain down through the lungs, the heart, the digestive organs, and it even goes into the face and the skin. And it's the kind of the feedback between the mind and the body. It's constantly gathering information about our internal state and communicating it back to the brain. There's actually more communication from the body to the brain through this nerve than from the brain to the body, which is interesting. So you can think of it as the body's reset switch. When we stimulate it, which we can do lots of different ways through breath and sound and gentle touch, you can even hum, and also essential oils, it sends this clear message to the brain that you're safe and you can relax. And that's why these techniques can be so powerful in spa treatments. So with something as simple as a slow exhale or a gentle hold behind the ears, because it sort of comes down behind the ears and down the sides of the neck. you can stimulate in that area, although you have to be careful when you do it. You mustn't do it too hard in case someone just actually faints, so you have to do it gently. Or you can also inhale a grounding essential oil. We can help guide the guest into parasympathetic calm. So just to experience this, so if everybody wants to feel what I'm describing, if you just grab one of your little rollers that you've been sent, now we're going to use these later in a little experience session, but just as a little tiny experience, if you just take one of these little oils, I'm going to use the Zen Whisper, and I'll be explaining what that is a bit later. And if you take that and you apply a little bit to your wrists, and you just close your eyes and take a long breath in and an even slower breath out. Now, if you place your hands gently behind your ears, right where the vagus nerve is most accessible, and you hum softly. So that vibration and that gentle pressure help to stimulate the vagus nerve and encourage the shift into rest and repair. And it's as simple as that,
I'm
really.
just enjoying this, to be honest. I'm very relaxed. Again, that's obviously an introduction to talking about the vagus nerve. And I think another thing that we often talk about when talking about energy work is things like chakras. Again, some people are familiar with the concept and others are not. So what is the chakra system, and how can you use the chakra system in treatments?
So I love the chakra system. I use it all the time in my Reiki practice, and I absolutely love it. It comes from the Ayurvedic medicine system, and it's basically 7 spinning energy centers that run along the spine. So you can see them on the picture. They go right from the root chakra, which is the red one at the bottom, all the way up to the top of your head. You don't need to be a spiritual person to work with them, but you can think of them instead as just an intuitive map of where different types of emotional tension and stress and energy blocks may be held in the body. So each of them corresponds to a location in the body and a set of emotional themes and also deeper patterns of behavior. And so when energy is flowing freely, your clients will feel balanced and grounded. But when these centers are blocked or overstimulated, we can then sometimes see emotional tightness, fatigue, or even physical discomfort. So I'll just give you a quick overview, and I'll try and sort of link it back to what's relevant in the treatment room. So the root chakra, which is the red one at the bottom, this is at the base of the spine, and this is all about grounding and safety. So if there's a client who feels anxious or unsteady or disconnected, this center can be affected. So in treatment, you can actually also hold underneath the feet, because that's also linked with this treatment, but also at the base of the spine, and that can help to bring balance. And then the orange one, which is the sacral chakra just below the navel, this is relating to creativity and sexuality. So this center reflects how freely someone can feel, express, and move emotionally. So movements which are focused on the hips can help reduce stagnation here and in the lower abdomen. And then the third one, the yellow one, the solar plexus in the upper abdomen, this is all about power and self-worth. So if a client arrives with anxiety or tension around control, this area can sometimes be tight. And so you can actually do holds over the diaphragm as well as breath work in this area to be really supportive for that chakra. And then probably my favorite, the heart chakra, which is in the center of the chest, which is all about love, but also if someone's in grief and they need healing, this is the heart chakra is the one that's affected. This is the most emotionally expressive chakra, and you can do heart focused holds if someone's feeling really emotionally heavy. And then the next one is the throat chakra, which is at the just at the voice box, and this is all about communication and truth. So sometimes if someone feels, they can almost feel blocked in this area, if they feel like there's a lump in their throat, if they're holding back something that they can't say, or if they're overwhelmed, then that can feel tight in this area. So neck and shoulder work and humming and breath work can be effective for this chakra. The next one is just, the third eye is just in the center of the brow. This near where the pineal gland is, and this is about intuition and attention and insight. So But it's also, if someone feels really mentally overstimulated, this center can feel really foggy. So you can actually hold on the forehead, and that can help to calm the mind. And then at the very top of the head, you've got the crown chakra, and this is your connection to the rest of the spiritual universe, if you like. So this is all about sort of spiritual connection and perspective. So when we use these in the evolved treatments, we're using these in a very practical way, because we have certain energy holds, and we also have aromatherapy blends which are chosen to support these centers, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And when you see it this way, the chakra systems, it's a very useful and accessible framework for therapists, because it can help them understand where in the body a client may be holding emotion, and then how to guide them towards greater balance.
I love the chakras. I've worked with some treatments before that incorporate them in, and I think it gives the treatment a different energy flow. I've really enjoyed working with chakras and treatments. Another thing that so we've done vagal nerve, we've done chakras. Another thing you mentioned earlier were the meridians in traditional Chinese medicine. What are they, and how do they show up in treatments?
Yeah. So meridians are channels around the body that carry life force energy. So this is what traditional Chinese medicine calls qi throughout the body. And on this picture, you can see some of them. There are lots and lots of different ones. They connect to organs, and they can also connect to emotional themes as well as physical pathways. And so whenever we're working with massage or acupressure points and reflexology on the feet, we're stimulating those meridian points, and we're helping to move the energy along the pathways. So they work physically as well as emotionally. So, for example, the lung meridian is relating to grief, because it's about sort of releasing tears. Stomach is often related with anxiety. You know, when you feel a bit nervous, sometimes you feel a bit sick in your stomach. Liver can be related to anger that hasn't been expressed, and kidneys is related to fear. And the energy flows around through these channels. So every 2 hours, the energy shifts from one meridian to the next, and they work as a kind of a complete circle. So I can trace these. I won't show you how to do it now, but when you do trace them, you can literally go from one to the next to the next. So the energy is flowing all around. And in an energetic kinesiology, we can see that when one of them's blocked, it will kind of almost back the other ones up that are sort of wanting to flow. And you can kind of balance someone just with one correction in kinesiology, and then all of them will just start flowing around. So it's really amazing when you see them kind of working in practice. We don't need to dive into all of that today, and it's, probably, a 3-year degree to be properly trained in it. But when you think about it from a therapist's perspective, the concepts that could be useful are flow versus stagnation. So a therapist can often feel where a guest's energy is moving freely and where it feels blocked or tight. You can even sometimes feel, because the hand feels sticky on the skin and it doesn't want to move when you're massaging. So if you want to work gently along the meridian routes, you can help to restore movement and balance. And you can work with them in a simple way, even without acupuncture training, because you can influence them powerfully. So with reflexology, some practitioners are trained in that. So that's all about stimulating the meridian endpoints. We have some of those points in some of our protocols. You can also tap on the beginning or the end points of the meridian. So that could be useful. You don't need to know the whole thing, but you can know that, for example, this is the end of the stomach meridian, this is the end of the kidneys. So you can learn a few simple taps which can help you kind of access them easily. If you've learned a few of them, you can actually trace them with your hands, and that can reset the meridians, and that can help them to work better. And then also you can use slow holds at key points around the body. And so if you use any of those, they help to regulate emotional states. They can help to soften tension of the muscles that the meridians are running through, and again support the parasympathetic shift we talked about earlier. And whatever of these techniques you're using, you're amplifying the results of the physical treatment, because the muscles will soften more quickly for you, and emotional tensions will ease, and the guest's whole system will become more receptive. So all of this work becomes another layer that enhances any facial or body treatment.
I think that's true, isn't it? You want to relax the guest, because then that makes, as you say, the physical element of the treatment much easier, because you've released some of that tension and they're feeling calmer. So now that we've explored the energetic systems and the nervous systems, how do all of these elements come together in a treatment?
Yeah, so I wanted to give you an example of how this could work in a treatment. So I'll just give some of our
Mm.
Evolve protocols and explain it that way. So with Evolve, the guest experience is shaped by four different complementary layers. And I've sort of put them in the layers going from most energetic down to most physical. Together they create this transformation that clients can feel in our rituals. So the energetic layer, which we've been talking about, so this could include things like energy holds, it could include things like chakra work, meridian points, also things like intention setting, and then also vagus nerve techniques. So these tools are helping to shift emotional tension, restoring flow, and then creating this sense of
Mm.
safety that
Yeah.
allows deeper release. The next layer down, I've called it the somatic and nervous system layer. So this is sort of going more into the physiology element. So this could be things like gentle somatic rocking that soothes the nervous system. This could be releasing in the abdomen, which is supporting emotional and physical detoxification. You've got reflex points to help balance stress responses, and all of these are helping to shift the guests into the parasympathetic rest and repair, lowering the cortisol and expanding the window of tolerance. And then the next layer down, I've called the aromatherapy and neurochemical layer. So aromatherapy and scent is one of the fastest pathways to emotional change, because essential oils reach the limbic system in the brain so quickly, just within one breath. And they can influence neurotransmitters. So as well as working energetically, they can influence serotonin, dopamine, melatonin, oxytocin. And that's why if you're selecting an oil intentionally at the beginning of a treatment, it can be so powerful because it can anchor the emotional tone and help to give the client that energetic shift, but also emotional shift and neurochemical shift that they're looking for. And then, of course, the physical layer is super important as well. So this is, of course, massage. It's things like lymphatic drainage and gua sha. And also the actual products themselves and what they're doing on the skin. And that is something we really think about with our massage oils, because they've got things like ceramides in them, bioretinol in them. So they're not just a base oil, they actually deliver a therapeutic benefit to the skin as well. So when these four layers work together, the treatment becomes more than just a massage or a facial. It becomes an experience that supports the whole person and their nervous system and their emotions and their hormones and their skin health.
Incredible. I love that though, because I think you do need to have a treatment that does incorporate everything. And I think, as we said at the beginning, that's what spas are looking for. We've got very much touchless wellness on one side, but there's a whole other part of the industry which is saying we need to bring it back to energy, to touch. Um, Laura, earlier you explained the energetic and physiological layers that shape a treatment. I know that you've developed a framework and Evolve that ties these ideas together. Can you introduce us to the bioenergetic wheel?
Yes, absolutely. So this is what we created at Evolve. Once we understood the science and the energetics and the emotional patterns that clients bring into the treatment room, we wanted a way to help therapists work
Mhm.
intuitively, but also give them a framework so that they could apply it consistently and confidently. So we created a wheel because it's our model for mapping how energy naturally moves through the body and emotions. Because we can see four different phases that show up, and they show up in so many different ways in nature. So they
Mhm.
show up in the seasons, they show up in the moon cycle, they show up in the female cycle every month, and even the time of day, and also energetically through the chakras. And all of these cycles follow a rhythm. So there's an expansion rhythm. So I've called
Mhm.
that here energize. There's a sort of a peak moment, which is the sort of, I've called it here nurture, but it's sort of like
Yeah.
the summer phase. You've got the contraction, which is sort of going into more of an autumn phase or an evening phase. And then you've kind of got a lull before you kind of have another cycle. So we created this wheel so that therapists could understand where a guest's energy was at the moment they were coming for the treatment, and it could be different the next time they come in, so that they can choose the right sensory direction, the right emotional support, and also the right energetic techniques, so that their energy work feels grounded, structured, and accessible. And we've created this even for therapists who haven't trained in the energy medicine systems before.
Why do we see these fluctuations? Where do they come from? You know, why does our energy shift so much from day to day, for example?
So our energy is never static, so it's just always fluctuating. And you can see this in the different holistic traditions in terms of how it's explained. So in traditional Chinese medicine, we've heard of the yin and the yang cycles, and that's exactly what this is. So yang is expansionary and yin is contracting. And that's always happening, and they've noticed those frameworks and patterns. And in Ayurvedic medicine, energies also follow daily and seasonal rhythms. And we can see it in neuroscience with our circadian rhythm, which people talk about a lot. But as well as the things that are sort of happening outside of us, our lifestyle and emotional factors play a huge role. So the things that are happening at this moment for someone, if they're overworked, if they have grief, if they have anxiety, if they haven't slept well, if they're having hormone changes, they'll all influence where the person is, where they're feeling depleted. So what we're trying to do in a treatment is try and recognize what state the person's in. Are they energized? Are they feeling overextended? Are they contracted? Are they drained? Are they restless? And once we can work out where they are, we can meet them there. And this wheel helps with that diagnosis.
So can you walk us through each phase and what it means for the therapist working with the guest?
Yeah, absolutely. So each of the elements in the wheel has different emotional and energetic qualities. So through our questionnaire, we can work out which one is going to resonate the most with the client when they come in. So the detox phase, so this is when energy is at its lowest point and preparing for renewal. And people often feel that they need to let go, they need to get more clarity, they need to cleanse, they might feel a bit bloated or heavy, and they're looking for potentially more focus, and we're looking to help support grounding and detoxification and reconnection with the body in this phase. As the energy rises, so this is sort of going into the sort of the energize and spring phase. This is for when somebody needs to feel more bright and uplifted and inspired and creative. So if they feel blocked and they feel a bit blue, they might need to feel mentally and spiritually uplifted rather than physically energized. So this is about helping to support the neurotransmitter serotonin, and helping to uplift but without overstimulating the body. When somebody is in the nurture phase, this is sort of for the peak moment. This is about helping someone reconnect with their body, and it's about helping them with their body confidence. And it can sometimes be that they need to fall in love with either themselves again or to mend a broken heart. This is all about the heart chakra. And the neurotransmitter we're helping to support here is oxytocin. So this is about them feeling physically held in the treatment, and just a very healing and nurturing treatment for them. And then the last one is about calming down. So this might be for someone who is feeling anxious, and they feel like they actually need to sleep more, they need to calm down. And what we're trying to do here is to try and bring cortisol down, help to really reset the nervous system and support deep relaxation. So these 4 phases are quite different to one another, and they can be used by the therapist to identify what the guest needs. And then they can also be customized as well if the therapist intuitively feels that that's the right thing to do.
You've aligned, from what you were saying with me, you've aligned each phase with a specific aromatherapy blend that complements or works with that energy. How does that help the therapist to shape the treatment?
Yes, so each of the phases has its own blend, and they smell gorgeous, but they're designed to work emotionally and energetically as well. So we've got, so for the detox phase, we have an oil called Vital Clarity. So this is things like grapefruit, lemon, rosemary. It's all about supporting detoxification, clearing mental fog, helping to ground. We use this in our cellulite treatment in Evolve as well, because it's a fantastic product for that. And it's got it just really helps to clarify physically and physically energize the body. If we move into the energized phase, the oil here is called Joyful Light. So this is basically inspired by the idea of light itself. We've used lots of really uplifting oils, things like neroli, which is orange flower, sweet orange from the fruit, then we've got petitgram from the leaves, and then we've added ylang ylang, which is lovely because it's the inner child. It's all about creativity and positivity, and it's there to support feelings of joy and creativity, and it's a brilliant oil for manifesting as well. The next phase, the nurture phase, we've got the most magical blend. It has rose and cacao and rose geranium, which is brilliant for hormonal balance, but it supports heart-centered work. So rose is such an amazing oil for that. And the cacao gives it a kind of a mysterious note as well. And this one almost smells like it could be worn as a perfume, and it's just really gorgeous. And I think when I see people try the oils, this is the one that some people just absolutely fall in love with and need to have, which is, really interesting. It has that emotional resonance with some people. And then the last one, the calming one, Zen Whisper, of course it has some lavender, but it also has things like frankincense, vetiver, which are fantastic for meditation, for sleep, to help calm the body and calm the mind down. So the therapist chooses the oil and the sort of the pathway based on the guest's emotional state. And in a minute, I'll explain how the oils get used within the treatment. But yeah, those are the oils, and we're going to work with them in a minute, and everyone has one of each, and we're going to have a play with them shortly.
As you've explained the energetic systems, the 4 layers of the holistic treatment and the bioenergetic wheel, but then what does that then look like when the therapist is working with the guest? How do those phases, the oils, translate into a physical treatment?
Yeah, so in the actual treatment, what we've done is to pick different modalities and treatments that can be used that sort of align with the different elements. So in the detox pathway, as well as using Vital Clarity, the therapist does some diaphragmatic work and some work with the abdomen, and actually that can really help with relieving bloating. There's lymphatic drainage in that pathway, and body gua sha in one of the rituals in that pathway, and holds that help with detoxification. Whereas in the energetic pathway, we actually do some energy work with the solar plexus to help to balance that. And then there's things like somatic rocking and leg and calf relaxation. One of my favourites is actually in the nurture pathway, where there's actually a pelvis wrapping, where you actually get wrapped up in a stretchy sheet. As well as that, there's pelvic work, pelvic massage, and heart and womb holds, and also work around the face, jaw, and neck area to release emotional tension. And then in the calm pathway, we're working with the vagus nerve system and points around the vagus nerve, and there's reflexology for hormone balance and more gentle somatic rocking. So each of the treatments has special customized modules that get used, and that just all helps to tailor the treatment for each of the people who's experiencing it.
The therapists don't necessarily follow a protocol or a rigid structure. They're kind of responding to what the guest needs in that kind of energetic phase that they're in.
Yes, that's right. So, what happens is that they will choose a main pathway and they've been trained in all the different modules, and they can intuitively bring those in depending on what a guest needs. But it gives them a guidance because they've got all these different modules in their mind, and then they can mix them in the way that feels intuitively right. But they do have this lovely framework to follow if they want to. So it actually really helps to build on therapists' experience, and the therapists who are delivering these protocols really love it because it gives them the chance to bring in their own ideas and their own intuition as well. And therapists are so knowledgeable, it's lovely to be able to make sure we're maximizing that.
That's I think that's the thing as well, isn't it? You've given them a toolbox, haven't you? You've given them a toolbox that they can then use. And that, as you say, it's an amazing opportunity for them to then develop themselves, to use the skills that they have, and bring the treatment to life. Because you can tell if someone is just following move after move after move. You know, if you give people freedom, they give their energy, it's a completely different experience. So I think it's great.
Exactly. Exactly, and it brings in that intentionality, which is important for the client to set, but it's equally important that the therapist is working with intention and authenticity, because I think clients can sense that.
Thank you so much, because that's been so incredibly insightful. I mean, I know we've got the four, I've got mine open here and I've been smelling them today, essences, and everyone can get hold of some of these to be able to join us and follow this part of the webinar. Are you able to guide us through a few short experimental sessions so that anyone who is watching and has got some of these oils that we can have them sent out to them can actually feel how these blends shift their energy and emotional state? I think that'd be a really fun way of bringing what you've said to life.
Yes, let's do it. So, before we begin, if you're watching this and you have your aromatherapy discovery kit, just take a moment to find your 4 roller balls and get them out of the boxes, get them ready to use. So we're going to experience for each one the emotional direction of the essence, a simple energetic touch point, and then a little ritual that you could integrate easily into treatments, or even self-care for yourself. So we're just going to start with the vital clarity. Yep. So let's grab our vital clarity. And so let's just start by applying a little bit of this onto our palms so that we can experience this. So this supports grounding, focusing, and clearing. So this is great for physical clearing and if you need physically energizing. So it's perfect if your energy is feeling heavy or stagnant, or you're feeling physically drained. So let's just apply a little bit of that and take a slow breath in through the nose and exhale fully. Now, if you bring one hand to your lower abdomen, so right at the base, the root chakra area, and then if you use your other hand to gently circle your abdomen clockwise. So this is grounding, it's detoxifying. Just close your eyes for a minute and just imagine all the noise and tension and heaviness softening and clearing. So just pause for a moment and just notice that shift. This movement is a simple adaptation of work that goes into the abdominal part of our detoxification protocol. But even doing it when you're seated and just inhaling like that with intention, it just helps your nervous system to settle. And I can feel already that my mind is clearing.
I'm so relaxed. In the room, Sarah.
Me too. Okay, so grab your next roller now. So we've got the joyful light here. So as I said, I designed this really just inspired by light itself. So can have a little scent of this. So this supports uplift, motivation, and emotional brightness. So you can have a little smell of that. You can smell some of the gorgeous essential oils, the neroli, the ylang ylang. So this is lovely if you're feeling flat, tired, or creatively blocked. And this relates to the second and the third chakras in the body. So we're going to apply it to the solar plexus, which is the area just below the ribs, if you want to, or you can just inhale it from your hands if you want to. But I'm going to roll a little bit. I'm out of camera now, but I'm going to roll a little bit around that chakra,
I'm doing
that
this.
solar plexus chakra. Yes. And then we can take a deep breath in and let it out with a soft sigh. Now, if you place both of your hands on your solar plexus and you make small circular movements, just think about warmth, confidence, and clear energy. So we can just pause for a moment and just notice the shift again. So this is, again, a scaled down version of some of the energy holds that we do in the Energize framework. In treatments to soften anxiety and activate confidence and creativity.
We're moving on to one
So
of my
moving
favourites,
on,
the wild divine. It's almost edible.
yes, this is gorgeous. So this supports the heart center. So this is all about emotional openness, compassion, and connection. So find a place to roll this, that I'm doing it on my other hand now. So this is really gorgeous for people who are holding grief or tightness or any self-doubt. So I'm going to roll this over my heart center here. And I'm going to put my hand here. So if I take a slow breath, and now as you exhale, just soften your shoulders. You can place one hand over your upper abdomen to connect this with your solar plexus. So your heart and your solar plexus are connecting up. You can feel the warmth beneath your hands and just allow the breath to move into this space. So again, just pause for a moment, just notice that shift. And this, again, it's a tiny fragment of our heart melting work, which goes on in the nurture protocol. But even if you do it when you're seated, it just feels like emotionally you feel more connected and emotionally safe and calm. And then let's move to Zen Whisper. So this supports stillness, quiet, sleep, and deep parasympathetic activation. So here you can smell the lavender, but also other notes coming through, the frankincense, the vetiver. So with this is all diluted. So this can be used on the body and the face. So you can put a little bit on your temples. I like to put some on my third eye chakra. And I even sometimes put some under my nose so that I can easily inhale it. So take a long inhale, but extend your exhale for twice as long. So maybe we'll inhale for 3 and out for 6. Now, if you place one hand lightly on your forehead, and then you could place the other hand at the back of your neck, this helps to quiet the mind and soothe the vagus nerve. So again, it's a micro version of the deep calming work that we do in our treatments if a guest really needs calming down or emotional release.
These were fantastic. I mean, I smell wonderful. I'm not going to, as I'm moving my hands.
I know, yeah, I can smell it everywhere
I'm
now.
going to
It
be
smells
energized,
great.
calm, divine, all at once.
Yes. I think, probably the best thing to do is to pick one of those and do it at the moment that you need it rather than doing all 4 of them. But I wanted to show
it's
you all
beautiful.
4
I just
of
moved
them.
my hands and got a beautiful smell. I
Yeah.
guess obviously using one at a time would be a good tip. But what are the key kind of takeaways, for spa directors and managers who want to kind of bring these essences into their treatment menus? What should they be thinking?
So it's interesting to think about how you can actually layer these in to treatments, and that's what I'm going to go through next. But just in terms of how you can bring this in, the way we've developed this isn't really just one protocol, it's a diagnostic lens. So this helps to the therapist to just understand where the client is and be thinking about what they need And with aromatherapy, what spa directors can think about is this isn't just a fragrance, this is actually an emotional and energetic direction for the treatment. So whether they need grounding, uplifting, connection, or calm, the blend can be used with clients as a sensory cue that anchors the entire experience. And even micro moves, the holds, the breath, the gentle self massage can be taught easily to therapists. They don't need advanced energetic training, and they deepen the emotional impact of any treatment.
So before we kind of wrap up, can you explain to how scent layering works in your treatment? I mean, a lot of directors would want to understand, how all the different touch points interact together, I guess.
Absolutely. So at Evolve, the way we do it is we use it at different structured touch points throughout the treatment. So just as an example of how you could integrate this, what's great about this is it creates emotional continuity. So you get a deeper nervous system response. So you could use it in the opening ritual. So in the Evolve ritual, we're using one of the blends in a mist form, and also doing energetic intention setting. So at the beginning of the treatment, the client is face down. We're spraying the Zen Whisper Sleep Mist to help anchor the guest into a calmer parasympathetic state. And it just kind of creates a container for the treatment. And then we then include intention setting, so the guest names what they wish to receive or let go of. And this then becomes the sort of aromatic cue that marks the start of that intention. And then what happens next is that the therapist then custom blends the essence that is right for that client into a base oil. So this is the second layer. This is where the emotional and energetic direction becomes personalized. So we take their essence and then we blend it with one of our base oils at the correct professional dilution in the treatment, which is lovely for the client. So it's all completely personalized. And there are three different base oils depending on the skincare needs of the client. So there's a very rich one with ceramides, there's an anti-aging one with bioretinol, and then there's an allergy-free one, which is also a little bit lighter for people who can't have nuts. And also, if somebody comes in and they're pregnant and they can't have essential oils at all, or even at a lower dilution, that can be catered for at this point because it can be completely personalized. But when you use the personalized blend, it means that this aromatic profile is present throughout the entire massage. So this will help to support the bioenergetic phase they're in, the emotional state that they want to cultivate, the energy holds that are going to be in that treatment, and then the physical work as well. So that becomes the backdrop to the entire somatic experience. As an option, but you could do this, it's very effective, we can add some of the concentrate into a diffuser or a bowl with warm water and petals that would sit underneath where the client is lying, and that can then hold some of the essence to fragrance the room gently, which gives some continuity because the environment then matches the emotional direction that's set at the consultation. Midway through the treatment, we then do some reinforcement. So we often repeat a very small aromatic moment. So it could be one inhalation guided by the therapist, which reinforces this sort of emotional intention and deepens the parasympathetic shift. And then at the very end, to complete the sensory journey, we return to the Zen Whisper Sleep Mist. So we're spraying that from head to feet, and the therapist is holding the soles of the feet, taking 3 deep breaths. So this is creating a final moment of grounding, and it signals to the nervous system that the ritual is complete. So this becomes a memory marker, and guests can then associate this Zen Whisper with deep calm because it bookends their treatment on either side.
I love how you can combine different aromatherapies and the different olfactory elements to kind of see how structured and intentional it can actually be. And it's not just one inhalation at the beginning of a treatment, but an actual fully layered aromatic architecture, I guess.
That's right. So each of the different touch points does something different. So the mist is anchoring the intention, the oil is carrying the emotional direction, the inhalation is resetting the nervous system, and then the final mist is integrating the whole experience. It's really simple, but it just transforms the treatment.
Doctors who want to give their therapist something they can use tomorrow, what are the simplest, most impactful techniques to begin with?
Yes, so I've put together 5 micro skills that could elevate any treatment. So, whichever brand you're using, whichever modality is in your
Lovely,
treatments, you can use these, and therapists can learn them very
lovely.
simply in minutes. So, if you open with breath and presence, before you've done a single stroke, if you guide one slow inhale and an even slower exhale, which will shift the guest into
Mm,
parasympathetic and safety and trust. And then using scent as an emotional anchor. So, an inhalation of scent aromatherapy ties to the guest's emotional needs, and that will help to set the direction of the whole treatment. You could incorporate a simple energy hold. It could be a hand placement at the
yeah.
heart, the solar plexus, or the soles of the feet to calm the nervous system and melt emotional tension, which is very easy to learn. Um, Slowing transitions between movements, because the nervous system responds to rhythm. So when you do things more slowly, it helps to shift the person more deeply into parasympathetic. And then finally, think about closing with grounding. So a still moment at the feet or the shoulders help the guest to
Mm.
feel contained and centered and complete. So these don't require any new protocols or training, and they simply deepen the guest experience, and therapists love how
And
intuitive
before
they
we
feel.
close, I love all those things. I'm a big fan of the breath at the beginning, inhalation and grounding. It really feels like you're doing a story through your treatment. But before we do go, is there any advice for spa directors thinking about bringing this into their teams? Is there anything you can give us?
Yes, I think the most important thing for everyone to know is that your
Yeah,
therapist already have intuition for this work. So if you give them an energetic framework like the bioenergetic wheel and a blend to anchor intention and a few micro skills to use at key moments, you aren't giving them more to do. You're giving them permission to work in the way they
yeah.
naturally want to. And clients will feel it because treatments will be deeper, they'll be more emotionally meaningful and more memorable. So I suppose to close our session today, I'd love just to take one
Love it.
final grounding breath, all of you. I'll just stop sharing now, and just place your hands on your heart and inhale gently and hold for a moment and exhale anything you no longer need. And thank you for being here and for holding space for deeper wellness
Oh,
in your
Laura, thank you
spas.
so much. Thank you. It was so good to connect the different type of energies, the aroma blends, and just leaving with some advice and tips for spa directors because there's always a way to start something, isn't there? And I think we need to be looking at our therapists more as individuals, less as a machine. And like you say, they all have their own intuition. They're in it because they love being with people and enhancing their energy. So we should support them in the ways that you've suggested. Thank you so
Mm.
much for joining me today. I smell incredible.
Oh, you're so welcome. I think, therapist well-being and therapist engagement is a huge important part of when we put our protocols together, what we wanted to achieve, because therapist recruitment and retention
Yeah.
is so much of an issue, and therapists are so knowledgeable, but we know that they can be burnt out, and we want to inspire them and to give them that freedom and creativity so they don't feel like they're a machine. And when we've trained therapists on our protocols, we've had such good feedback because they love delivering the evolved protocols because it gives them that scope and they feel like they're working on all these different
I love
levels.
it.
And
I love
so
it. It's a toolbox,
it
I think, as
works.
well, isn't it? It's giving them things, elements that they can use and their creativity. It's the creativity behind it. Thank you
Mhm.
so much. I'm so grateful. And yeah, like I
Absolutely.
say, I smell amazing.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'm feeling so zen now, floating around for the rest of the
Thank
day.
you.